More Cowbell, the Mississippi State podcast here on SEC Country. Welcome to another Monday. Welcome to another week here of talking Mississippi State sports. That's what we do here on More Cowbell. We have a good time here in the SEC Country studios. I got Nate Gettleman on the other side of the glass. I got Landshark handling the ones and twos over there. We are talking Mississippi State sports, and this, for me, is going to be an exciting week. This, for me, is going to be a week that I've been looking forward to for a while. Because Joe Moorhead, John Cohen, the Mississippi State Rambling Trio, or whatever you want to call them, the Mississippi State group of traveling dogs will be in Atlanta this Thursday night. They'll be in Sandy Springs, not far from where I sit right now. Joe Moorhead, John Cohen, the entire Road Dogs tour. They are on tour all week. They'll be in, I think they were in Vicksburg the other day. They were in Starkville today, Tupelo. I think they might be in Memphis. We've got all that planned out later. I can show you where they're going to be. But I am very, very excited about Joe Moorhead and John Cohen and Mississippi State coming to Atlanta on Thursday night. I'm going to be there. If you're an Atlanta follower or if you're an Atlanta viewer, I know I've got several. I've got several on here that check in every day from Marietta and Atlanta, Dunwoody. I know I've got some Kennesaw dogs on here. I know I've got one up in Ringgold, Georgia, all the way up I-75 almost to Tennessee. If you're in the area, think about it. Think about going to the Road Dogs tour in Atlanta because it's going to be fun. I'm going to be there. We might do something special. I don't know. We might do something fun revolved around this show. But Thursday night, Joe Moorhead will be, hey, in Grayson, Georgia, says Kane Martin. There you go. Grayson, Georgia, not far from here. You should be there, Kane Martin. Latrell D. Knox Birchfield says, Hail State from St. Louis. I want to welcome you all in to another week. Snellville, Georgia. Lynn Watson Freeman. Wow. Lynn Watson Freeman, you're close enough. You should be there. You should be there. I look forward to seeing you. Morning, Brandon, says Stan C. Riddle. Good morning, Stan C. Riddle. Thank you for being here. It's hot in Sulligent this morning, says Lynn Rhodes-Gilmer in Sulligent, Alabama. Thank you, Lynn. David Carter checking in. What's up, Hail State? Courtney Leanne Walker from Point City. That's West Point, Mississippi, the best small town in the state of Mississippi. Connor Riley says, how was your Mother's Day? It was very good. My wife was pleased. My wife had a very good Mother's Day, Landshark. She got a Michael Kors purse. Oh, I know, right? Money bags over here. She got a bunch of Mississippi State gear. Thank you, Maroon and Company. You hooked me up solid there. Hail State hoping to meet you Thursday night, but the event is sold out, says Dickie Delishman. It is sold out. It is sold out, but I don't know. Maybe you can figure it out. Maybe I don't know what I would recommend, but maybe they'll release some later tickets. Have they already been to Memphis, or are they coming? If not, what are the dates? Jeremy Warren. Jeremy, I think they're going to be in Memphis today, actually. If you haven't already been aware of it, I'm not sure you're going to make it. Today, they're in Tupelo and Memphis tonight. So you got time. You could make it tonight, but you need to get on your P's and Q's because they are in Memphis tonight. I believe they'll be in Meridian and Biloxi on Tuesday. They'll be in Houston, Texas on Wednesday. And then Thursday, they'll do a day-night doubleheader in Huntsville and in Atlanta, Georgia. That's where I am. So we're going to get started in about 2 minutes for the podcast. I want to welcome everybody in. Thank you for being here. Hail State and Abilene, Texas. Eric Burks. Kenny Manning is here. Lewis Williamson says, it's Thursday your speaking engagement? No, Lewis, I won't be speaking at the Road Dogs Tour. I know how disappointed you are about that. I'm frankly disappointed myself, but I will be there. I'll be there to watch Joe Moorhead. Listen, if you haven't seen this guy, he's great in person. He's a down-to-earth fella. I'll talk about that on the show. That's going to be the main topic. The opportunity Joe Moorhead has in this Road Dogs Tour, going out and meeting State fans, and the opportunity State fans have to meet Joe Moorhead. Hail State from Buckhead, Thomas Loftus. There you go, Thomas. I want to see you Thursday night. Now, before we get started, Landshark, I'm going to need you to put a graphic on the screen real quick as I've dropped my T-shirt on the floor, and I have to get it. So, that's my More Cowbell graphic. Big show today. We'll talk about the Road Dogs Tour, Joe Moorhead, John Cohen, what they might ask, what they might give away, what they might say. John Cohen certainly in the throes of a baseball coaching search. You know, baseball coaching searches at most universities not going to move the needle. Baseball coaching searches at most places, you're just going to get one line in the newspaper the day after it happens. But at Mississippi State, it is a big deal. We own all 25 attendance records and on-campus college baseball attendance records. Mississippi State baseball is a huge deal, and State fans are following this coaching search very, very closely. We'll also today talk about who it could be. Could it be Jim Schlossnagle from TCU? Could it be Dan McDonald from Louisville? I don't know. Postseason plans, Mississippi State sports, a couple of spring sports going to the postseason. Mississippi State men's tennis on to the Sweet 16 for the I believe the third time in the last 5 years. And Mississippi State softball headed to Arizona to play in the Tucson Regional. Mississippi State softball, very good team. Hard to notice because they play in the toughest, I would say, pound for pound. The SEC is tough in every sport, but it might be toughest in softball. 9 SEC teams are hosting regionals. Before we get to the show, we're going to get to that very, very shortly. I want to talk to you about a friend of mine. J.B. Holloway is a state graduate. He is a state fan from Memphis. He is somebody that recently started a T-shirt design company. Now, I don't usually do this, and I'm not going to do it very much. But all the artwork is done by J.B. All the designs are done by J.B. He's trying to get this little T-shirt company off the ground. His name's Brett Holloway. He specializes in outdoor designs and scenery, and he also has begun to create some Mississippi State shirts, some Ole Miss shirts. You can find his shirts at jbhollowaydesigns.etsy.com. Now, I have one right here. And I didn't wear it because Landshark said it didn't look good. No, the shirt looks good, but it didn't look good on me because I stuffed it in my bag and it was wrinkled. But I've got this shirt. This is a beautiful-looking shirt. Let me pull it to the camera right there. That's the front of it. That's the Mississippi State or State of Mississippi logo. It's in maroon, and the back is beautiful. The back is fantastic. Hail State, and you've got all that Mississippi State imagery. You got the cowbell, you got the Golden Egg Trophy, you got the Mississippi State Bulldog, you got the stadium. It is an absolute beautiful shirt. Fits very well. Check out J.B. Holloway. This guy's a state grad trying to get this thing started. He's doing great. These shirts, he's also got outdoor shirts. He's got fishing logos. A lot of great stuff on that little website right there. Check that out. Now, a lot of great stuff on this website, SEC Country, Mississippi State, including a podcast, which we're about to do right now. Nate, are you ready?
I believe so.
Let's go.
It's the More Cowbell Show, brought to you by SEC Country. And now, your host of the More Cowbell Show, Brandon Walker.
That's me, Brandon Walker, More Cowbell, the Mississippi State podcast presented by SEC Country. We are rang in here for a Monday, another week here on the More Cowbell Show. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. You guys make this show what it is. It's one of the best Mississippi State podcasts out there. I thank you for it. It would not exist if you guys didn't come out and support me and just be fans of the show in general, and I appreciate it. Now, on today's show, we're going to talk about another guy I appreciate. His name's Joe Moorhead. And frankly, I'll add John Cohen into the mix. Joe Moorhead and John Cohen are going state to state. Well, I guess that's right. They are going state to state. They're on their Road Dawgs tour this week. They are cramming probably a 30-day tour into about 6 days. Vicksburg, Tupelo, Memphis, Houston, Texas, Huntsville, Alabama, Atlanta, Georgia. They'll be all over the South this week, spreading the good news of Mississippi State football and Mississippi State sports. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about how that's an opportunity for Moorhead to really sink his teeth into this fan base, really get close to this fan base, and really just kind of stand out. You get to meet Joe Moorhead. You get to find out what he's like. And I promise you, if you haven't done that yet, I have. It's worth the time because he is a down-to-earth guy. He's a fantastic guy, just a good human being, and you'll come out of there so happy about where Mississippi State football is under Joe Moorhead. Now, we'll also talk about the baseball coaching search because John Cohen is on this tour. He's going to be asked, hey, who are you going to hire for the baseball coach? Because that's a big deal at Mississippi State, right? Mississippi State baseball, serious business. We don't make these pinstripe cowbells, these baseball bat cowbells, the lefty bell you can find in Maroon Company. We don't make those just to entertain ourselves. We make those because Mississippi State baseball is something special, and John Cohen has an opportunity to go out and hire a special coach, and we're going to talk about that. We'll talk about postseason plans, Mississippi State tennis, moving on, Mississippi State softball heading to Arizona to play a little softball out there. And at the end of the show, 2-minute drill, 5 random questions from me to you that we'll interact with. I look forward to it. But first, let's go ahead and start talking about Joe Moorhead. Let's talk about this Road Dawgs tour. Like I said, I think they started in Starkville this morning, which how you start a Road Dogs tour in Starkville, I'll never know because that's not very much road. However, they're in Tupelo at lunch. Then they're in Memphis, Tennessee tonight. Tomorrow they're in Meridian and Biloxi. That's reasonable. Wednesday they're in Houston, Texas. Well, that's quite a stretch. And then they got the day-night doubleheader Thursday, May 17th, Huntsville, Alabama for lunch. Atlanta, Georgia, Sandy Springs to be exact, where I'll be Thursday night. Thursday night you can come out to Sandy Springs, come out to this event. You can meet Joe Moorhead, you can meet John Cohen, you can meet Brandon Walker because it's going to be a big-time deal. I look forward to it. So they're on the road. I'm anxious to see Joe Moorhead on these speaking engagements because I see coaches. We've had Dan Mullen for the last 9 years on speaking engagements, and he goes out and he says something funny about Ole Miss and blah, 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 blah. He reads his scripted stuff. Joe Moorhead is not Mr. Scripted, and he's not Mr. Take Shots at Ole Miss. He's Mr. Down to Earth, just a dude. He's just a dude. He is just a guy like me and you. He is somebody who I've talked to several times. He is very enjoyable. We've had him on the show. And when we had him on the show, it was like talking to Brian Haydad or talking to just your neighbor across the street. It was just talking to somebody that you don't feel is elevated above you. But this guy is the Mississippi State football coach. He is in charge of our collective destiny as a football program. And I'm anxious to see how fans come out of this tour feeling about Joe Moorhead because I think the closer he gets to the fans and the more fans get to know him, and we're still in the honeymoon phase. I mean, we're still 6 months into him being hired, and he hasn't coached a game yet. But every time he gets to grab a mic, every time he gets to answer questions, he's going to get that much closer to the fan base. Everyone you talk to. And I'm not going to run down Dan Mullen because for 9 years, I supported Dan Mullen. I like Dan Mullen. I still like Dan Mullen. But there was always, but. There was always, he's a good coach, but. Off the field, in those settings, not really that great of a guy to talk to. I was talking to a couple of high school coaches just in the last couple of months at big-time programs. If you know me, you ought to be able to guess. The two biggest programs in the state. And they have said numerous times, independent of each other, Joe Moorhead is night and day compared to Dan Mullen. It is completely different. I hear these high school coaches say that the difference is staggering. Moorhead will just come into the field house. He'll just come into a high school. He'll sit down. He'll talk football. He'll sit there for an hour. And they'll just talk like old friends. With Dan Mullen, it was like pulling teeth to get him inside the halls and the field houses of high schools. And the coaches always felt like he felt like he was better than them while he was there. Joe Moorhead, not so. And in that environment and in this environment, I think Joe Moorhead's going to go a long way. A long way. We're already united behind him. I mean, it's not like there's a divide in the fan base saying, boy, I don't know about that Joe Moorhead. No, we're already united. But this tour is going to be something else. It's going to be a big opportunity for fans to see him, to get excited about the future, to get excited about this team. 19 starters coming back, including all SEC defensive linemen and quarterback. Just so much talent here, and I believe you'll find that we've got a lot of coaching talent too. I expect he'll get a lot of questions about Nick Fitzgerald. I don't know how he'll answer them. I look forward to it. I'm going to ask him about Nick Fitzgerald Thursday night. Everybody I talk to, I've talked to a family member of Nick Fitzgerald, says this guy's going to be ready to go. This guy is going to be ready to go. But I expect Joe Moorhead will get that question. I expect John Cohen will get a lot of questions. I think he'll get a lot of questions about the baseball coaching search. And that's what we'll transition to right now. John Cohen, the athletic director, former baseball coach at Mississippi State, is charged with turning this baseball program around, with making sure the future lives up to the past, with making sure there are national championships in the future. They didn't go out and build the greatest college baseball stadium because they wanted to. They didn't go out and build it just because they had $40 or $50 million laying around. They built it to be the home of a national championship team. Now he's got the stadium. He's got the best stadium in all of college baseball. Now, yes, Nate.
I heard that if you build it, they will come.
You stopped me for that?
You stopped.
I guess that's right. If you've been to this stadium, you know it is the greatest college baseball stadium there is, and it's only half built, and next year it's going to be incredible. And next year, we half launched it this year, and we kind of halfway have a decent team. It's not a good team. It might get into the NCAA regionals, but next year you're going to have the excitement of a new coach, a new stadium. It's going to be an entirely new world of Mississippi State baseball. The big question is, who's it going to be? Now, I got a couple of names here. I read the message boards. I've heard the same talk you guys have heard. It's no secret. The names Mississippi State baseball fans. Oh, let me go ahead and read this quote. John Cohen was asked by the Louisville Courier-Journal. He was up there in Lexington with Mississippi State baseball this week. We're in the background stages of doing our search right now. We're going to come up with an incredible coach to run this program. I'll tell you what, Kentucky has a big-time coach in Nick Mingione. Now, he just gave his guy, his former assistant coach, a big kind of reference there. He kind of backed him up. Nick Mingione is not going to be the next coach of Mississippi State. Butch Thompson's not going to be the next coach of Mississippi State. Everybody you hear says that Mississippi State has their guy, that John Cohen has this guy. He's told people that it's going to be a multiple-time College World Series coach. It's going to be somebody who's going to change the trajectory of this program. The three names I've heard the most are TCU coach Jim Schlossnagle, Louisville coach Dan McDonnell, and Vanderbilt coach Tim Corbin. The first two names more than the third. So if you look at it, Jim Schlossnagle, Dan McDonnell, is that your choice? If that's your choice, let's look at it. I don't know if those are the two he's going to choose from. I don't know if the next state baseball coach comes out of that group, but just in case it does. 47 years old, Jim Schlossnagle, 701, 322 career record at 68%, 5 College World Series appearances, including the last 4 years. Dan McDonnell, also 47 years old, 508 and 201, 70% winning percentage, 4 College World Series appearances. Both elite coaches, both probably in the top 5 of coaches in the country. So I said all that to say this. Here's my choice between McDonnell and Schlossnagle. It doesn't matter. Either one of those guys makes you a championship program. Either one of those guys in charge of this stadium and this recruiting and this university and this baseball program is going to be a national championship coach. If that's the choice, then John Cohen has changed Mississippi State baseball for the better, and he's done it by going out there and refusing to hire an up-and-comer or refusing to hire somebody who might be good. He has decided to hire a game changer. He's decided to go out and get one of the best coaches in the country, and either of those two would work. Postseason plans. Mississippi State men's tennis won the SEC tournament in Tuscaloosa a couple of weeks ago. They're on a roll, and they keep rolling. They're rolling right through the NCAA tournament. Up next, they'll have Texas. They'll play number 13 Texas, if I'm not mistaken. Mississippi State men's tennis is something to watch. These I don't want to call them minor sports. These non-Big Four sports, the spring sports, softball, Olympic sports. Well, tennis is kind of an Olympic sport. But women's basketball and softball, and now you got men's tennis. And there's so much good going on at Mississippi State University right now. It's incredible. Men's basketball looking up, football looking up, baseball looking up, men's tennis going to the Sweet 16, women's softball competing in the hardest league in the country in any sport. And they have earned a spot to go out to Tucson, Arizona and play in the Tucson Regional. Mississippi State women's softball could honestly be a top 15 team in this country, and they're barely a top 12. I don't even know if they are a top 12 team in the SEC. That's how good the SEC is in softball. 9 regionals, 9 regional hosts from the SEC. It is impossible to win in softball in the SEC at a high level for Mississippi State. But Van Studeman has got this team in the tournament, and look out. Now they don't have to go out and play an SEC team. They don't have to play Florida this weekend. They don't have to play Alabama. They get to go to Tucson, Arizona. Now, Arizona's good, or they wouldn't be hosting a regional, but State's ready for this. I look for Mississippi State to make a lot of noise out in Tucson. 2-minute drill. I ask 5 random questions at the end of the show. Land Shark, would you like to read the questions today, or would you like me to read them? We've been doing Land Shark Mondays, so why don't you read the questions today? I'd like for you to participate.
Okay, I'll read them.
All right, so Land Shark. That way I can answer, and I can talk with my fans out there. Number 1, go.
Number 1, if you could switch places right now with one Mississippi State-related person, coach, athlete, announcer, anybody, excluding Brandon Walker, who would it be?
First of all, excluding Brandon Walker wasn't in the question. Excluding Brandon Walker was not in the question. But if you could trade places with any Mississippi State-related person out there, it could be Dak Prescott, it could be Ben Howland. It could be Vic Schaefer. It could be anybody. Who are you trading places? Jay Hammers would like to be Jim Ellis, the baseball announcer. That's pretty good. You get to go follow around the baseball team. Lewis Williamson says he'd trade places with Landshark. That's then you can be on the show. John Cohen says John Stringer. Jim Ellis says Jay Hammers. I believe I would probably trade places with Neil Price. I'd like to be Neil Price. I'd like to follow the football team around, be the announcer. I'd like to follow the basketball team and be the announcer. Of course, football, you'd have to be with Matt White all the time, and that would be blinding. But still, Jim Ellis says Scott H. Chilton. Dax says Wayman Hodge. Jack the Bulldog says D. Curtis. He has a great life. Boy, that's a sneaky good answer right there. Bully says Ed Kachia, sorry. Garrett Weaver says whoever has the biggest paycheck, and Garrett Weaver wins the day. Bart Gregory says Dickie Delishment. John Cohen says Lance Chain. Daniel Branding would like to be an equipment manager on the football team. And Lewis Williamson says Fletcher Cox for his bank account. That's also a good answer. Landshark, question number 2.
Number 2, Sunday was Mother's Day.
It was.
Who's the best TV mother of all time?
Sunday was Mother's Day. Who is the best TV mother of all time? I have no idea why I'm just repeating your question, as you asked it very expertly. Thank you very much. I believe I'm going to let everybody answer this. What do you think? Who's the best TV mother of all time, Landshark?
I think Full House.
There isn't a mother on Full House.
Yes, there is.
No, there's not. It's 3 guys raising 3 girls.
Oh.
You have the entire landscape of TV, and you choose the one show that doesn't have a mother. You're done. All right. Roseanne says David Wallace Laird. Aunt B says Kenny Manning. Also not a mother. She was an aunt. Marge Simpson says Jess Hardy. Claire Huxtable says Chad Mass. Leave It to Beaver's mom says Grace Thacker Good. Garrett Weaver says the lady from Home Improvement. Her name was Jill Taylor. Jesse's wife is a mom on Full House, Garrett Weaver. I guess that's true. She didn't know it, but I guess that's true. Lois Griffin says Jarrett Clark. Second Vivian Banks says Lois Wait. No, that's not right. The first Vivian Banks. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Lois Griffin. Peg Bundy. Carol Brady. Claire Huxtable. June Cleaver. And Roseanne. I think the answer is Claire Huxtable. Whatever happened with Bill Cosby, whatever, but Claire Huxtable was an incredible character and incredibly played by a great actress. Olivia Walton, Lucille Bluth from Arrested Development. That 70s show, Mom, says Brian Sisk. Question number 3.
Number 3, what's your favorite stadium song?
Oh.
The best song that plays in the stadium at a football game.
So you're at a football game and you're fired up. What's the best song that gets you going? What's the best song? I think I know what State fans are going to say right here. I'm not gonna say it out loud. I want to see what they got. I want to make them say it. Certainly, Don't Stop Believing for a couple of years was incredible. Where you stand on the fence of them playing it again, I don't know. We Will Rock You says Jay Hammers. Always good. Always a good song. I'm thinking State fans are going to go with this. I'm thinking they're going to go with Hell's Bells by AC/DC. Enter Sandman. Sandstorm says Lewis Williamson. Sandstorm says Jarrett Clark. Thunderstruck by Eric Burks. Who Let the Dogs Out? Toby Denton. MSU has been using a lot of WWE theme songs lately. Stone Cold Steve Austin's is my favorite, says Blake Moore. Hell's Bells, AC/DC. The Yodel Boy. Come on, Cody Duncan. Don't Stop Believing. Who Let the Dogs Out? Welcome to the Jungle is classic, says Bill Anderson. Build Me Up, Buttercup, says Charles Bryan. There's always that guy, isn't there? There's always somebody that has to swim against the tide. Always that guy. Zombie Nation says Micah Halfacre, and I'll let Micah Halfacre shut it down. I'll let Roy Samante shut it down. Seven Nation Army. That is a good song. Number 4.
Number 4. If you could domesticate one animal and make it a pet, which animal would you choose?
This question was posed by a very talented person here named Stephen Petrella. Stephen Petrella gave me this question this morning. If you could domesticate one animal and make it a pet, which would you choose? I really think you would run the neighborhood if you had a pet rhinoceros. Or a pet giraffe. I feel like a pet giraffe would be very, very handy. I don't know if you could domesticate one, but I feel like it would be very, very handy. Somebody says a land shark. A gazelle. Bulldogs, I think they are domesticated. An anteater. Why would you want an anteater? Oh, you know what? That is pretty smart. You wouldn't have ant problems anymore. I like where your head's at. An elephant, a panther, an armadillo. An armadillo. This is my pet armadillo. It's Dilly. Come here, Dilly. My pet armadillo. A deer, a silverback gorilla. I feel like you just hang out with him. A hippo. Number 5.
I like this one.
Okay.
The Supreme Court legalized sports betting this morning. If you had to bet all of your money for Brandon Walker, that's like $10. If you had to bet all your money on one MSU SEC game this year, which one are you choosing? Florida, LSU, Auburn, Alabama, Ole Miss, Arkansas, A&M, Kentucky.
So the premise of the question, if I'm reading you correctly, and I am the one that wrote this question for you, sports betting was legalized at the federal level today, and states will have to implement it. Now, Mississippi is already ahead of the game. They've already said they got it. They're ready. Mississippi's going to have legalized gambling by the time football starts. So if I had to take all of my money and bet it on one SEC game for Mississippi State this year, what would I do? Somebody says Florida, Arkansas, Ole Miss, Kentucky, Egg Bowl on the money line, LSU, Kentucky, Ole Miss, Arkansas, LSU, Arkansas. So a lot of different answers here. Nobody's saying Alabama, nobody's saying Auburn. I would guess Arkansas is going to be the worst team in the SEC West, maybe the worst team in the entire SEC this year, but you're going to have a big line. You got to think. State could be favored by 25 points in that game. Are they going to win by 25? They certainly didn't last year. They struggled in Arkansas, but we'll have them at home. Florida, I don't think so. Florida's going to be a lot better than we want them to be. State's going to win that game, but Mullen's going to have that team ready to play. Florida's going to be better than we want them to be. I think it's Arkansas or Kentucky. I don't think there's any way either of those two teams are talented enough to stay on the field with Mississippi State this year. But I really feel, you know what? I'm going with this. I'm going with LSU. State's going to beat LSU by multiple touchdowns this year, and LSU could very well be favored in that game. So that's the one I would, even though it's on the road, and you shouldn't put all your money on a road game, I'm going with LSU. That's what I'm going with. Landshark, you did a great job reading those questions. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
People did a great job answering. Right now, I'll come back to you. We'll spend about 5 to 10 minutes on questions and comments. But on the podcast, I'm going to drop you off here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for making this show what it is. You've been listening to More Cowbell, the Mississippi State podcast presented by SEC Country. I love how much Brandon hates LSU, says Micah Halfacre. I don't hate LSU. I don't hate LSU at all. I think LSU is a top 10 program in the country. I can't believe that they hired Ed Orgeron to be their coach. I can't believe they're rolling into a second season with Ed Orgeron. I can't believe they have willingly taken themselves from a top 10 place in the country to being coached by that guy. It's amazing to me. State won by 30 last year. State's going to win by multiple touchdowns this year. State's a much better team than LSU this year. Florida will be -6. State will cover that. Cody Duncan. So I think it's the 4th game of the year. State should be 3-0. Florida very well could be 3-0, though. I think they have 2 non-conference games in Tennessee, and Tennessee's going to be awful. So both teams could be 3-0. Eric Burke says, peace out, Brandon. See you, Eric. Thanks for being here. I'm ready to find out who the baseball coach is, Ginger Tuck. I am too. We're this close. And, I know state baseball is trying to fight to get into a regional. They're trying to do this, and they might do it. They might not. I don't know. But ultimately, at the end of the day, would you rather, and I don't know how to phrase this, would you rather state be playing in a regional a couple of weeks from now, or would you rather go ahead and know who the coach is if you had that option? Because I think state fans are ready for the future. This is not going to end in the College World Series. State's not going to a super regional. But we know the future is now. The future is about to be found out. Is it Schlossnagle? Is it McDonald? Is it anybody? Let's look at the pros and cons. McDonald would bother Ole Miss fans. That's not very important, but it's very entertaining. McDonald would bother Louisville. It would complete the greatest season sweep ever that Mississippi State's had over anybody. Mississippi State beat Louisville in the bowl game. They beat Louisville in the women's Final Four. They beat Louisville in the men's NIT. And now State might steal their baseball coach, the best coach on their campus. That's hilarious. I hope we keep Gary Henderson as the pitching coach, says James Weaver. I don't think so. I'm guessing that if you hire a big-name coach, if you hire a Schlossnagel or a McDonald, that guy is going to want to hire his own pitching coach. That guy is going to want to hire his own guy to bring in and put in charge of the pitchers. And you don't get in that guy's way. You hire him because he can change this program 100%. You don't hire him and say, by the way, here's your pitching coach. You don't do that. Auburn will be the swing game this year between a good and great season, says Trace Robbins. That is always true. Mississippi State and Auburn, Auburn is always the swing game for Mississippi State. Almost always. 2014, certainly. It's what pushed us over the top from being a top 10 team to the number 1 team in the country. Auburn is a very important game, and State has it in Starkville this year. Auburn universally picked by sports writers to be better than Mississippi State. I think it's close. I think both teams are very good. They're 2 and 3 easily. Those are easily the second and third best teams in the SEC West behind Alabama, and they play in Starkville, Mississippi, and nobody nationally is giving State a chance, and that is dangerous. Joshua Gilbert, he asked, SEC football championship game, it'll be State versus who? Georgia. Georgia's pretty much got the SEC East locked in for a while. Maybe Mullen can build something, but listen, it's going to take Mullen a couple of years to be that good. It's going to take Jeremy Pruitt about 3 years to get fired, and then the new coach will take another 3 years to build Tennessee back. Muschamp is not – he can't win it at South Carolina. I think Georgia, with Kirby Smart and doing what they're doing on the recruiting trail, have probably got Atlanta reservations for the next 3 to 5 years. Ethan Fleury says, I just gave my 1-year-old some bacon, and he's into it. That is exciting, Ethan. That's why we're here, to hear the important comments like that. I am jealous of your 1-year-old son right now. Alabama versus a 3-loss Georgia team, says Jay Hammers. You know, Georgia can be worse than they were last year. They can be much worse and still go 11-1. The East is just – it's a terrible division right now. It's an awful division. Georgia could be much worse than they were last year when they were a national – probably should have won the national title and go 11-1 because their non-conference is not that strong. They got Georgia Tech at the end of the season. Who could they lose to? Who is on their schedule that they could lose to? LSU's not good. Florida's not good. Tennessee's not good. South Carolina's just okay. Will you have a Friday show to report on the event, says Dickie Delishman. I'm going to figure out what we're going to do about reporting on this event. We'll decide that this week, and I'll let you know. Has there been any news on Anriel Howard out of Texas A&M? No, I'm still waiting for that, Joe Goldman. And I know I've seen this question every day for the last couple of weeks. I'm waiting like you're waiting. Well, we anticipate she's going to be committing to Mississippi State, but I haven't seen it yet. It hasn't happened yet. I hope Georgia owns Mullen in Florida. They certainly will at first, said Stephen Stafford. They certainly will at first. But I do believe Mullen's going to win 9 games this year at Florida. I do believe that. There's still a big gap between what Florida can be and what Georgia can be. Hail State from Kingsport, back home from Hawaii. Richard Reif. Good to have you back in Kingsport, Tennessee. I'm sure it's a nice place, lovely place. Where are they going to be in Tupelo? Mac, I don't know, but I believe it's probably happening right now. They're at Tupelo for lunch. So if you don't know or haven't seen it, you better get out to Tupelo or you better get up there very soon. I don't know. Dan has a way of shocking people. That could be one of Georgia's losses. Jay Hammers. I guess I would ask when in his head coaching career Dan Mullen ever shocked a top 5 team. State beat LSU when they were number 8. State beat Texas A&M when they were 6. State beat Auburn when they were number 2, but State was number 3. I don't know. I think Dan Mullen's probably a better on-field coach than Kirby Smart, but Kirby Smart is playing with a much more full deck right now. What do you think about our cornerbacks and wide receivers? Cornerback, I'm not really that worried about. I think there's enough cornerback talent. I think Cam Dantzler is going to be a very good player by the time he leaves. I think Jamal Peters is going to have a strong senior year, and I think you've got other cornerback talent there that's decent enough. Wide receiver, I alternate between confident and a little worried. Right now, I'm probably a little worried. You got to have Devontae Jason be ready to play as a freshman. Stephen Guidry has to be the real deal, the 4-star JUCO out of Hines. He has to be the real deal. And you got to probably get a surprise somewhere in there, and that could be Austin Williams, who showed out in the spring game. With the news of Malik Heath might not make it to campus, he was your 4-star wide receiver signee out of Callaway High School in Jackson. That could be a problem position, but also there's enough talent there that As long as they get going, as long as they learn how to play quickly, might be all right. Mississippi State grad transfer Xavier Stapleton has committed to Florida Atlantic. There you go. Guy Dawson reporting that news to me. Thank you, Guy Dawson. So the two transfers, Eli Wright left Mississippi State. He ended up at St. John's. And Xavier Stapleton is an owl in Florida at Florida Atlantic and Fort Lauderdale. If you got to spend one more year in college, probably a good place to do it. So does our tennis team have a legitimate shot at winning a national title, says Mark Wilson. Well, they're putting themselves in the mix, aren't they? And they won the SEC, a very tough division. Do they have a chance to win a national title? I'd be lying if I told you I knew the answer to that question. But they're in the top 16. They're in the Sweet 16. They're one of the 16 teams left playing, so yeah, they have a chance. It's 12:22. Landshark, you ready to get out of here? Let's go ahead and cut this one. So, Tupelo, Mississippi. There you go. First Methodist Church of Wesley Hall and Main Street in Tupelo. So there you go, 11:30, which you got about 8 minutes. You got 8 minutes to make it out there and buy a ticket and go to the Mississippi State alumni thing or the Road Dogs tour at the United Methodist Church in Tupelo. It's at a restaurant in Sandy Springs here in Georgia. I don't know where it is. They alternate where they are. I'm guessing with Tupelo and Memphis and all those, the ones they've done before, they can probably get away with a smaller venue. But Atlanta, which they didn't do last year, I think Atlanta's already sold out. People are excited, and I'm excited. So, that's Landshark. That's Nate. They did a very good job today. I'm Brandon Walker. I do a very good job every day. Thank you for being here. Thank you for talking Mississippi State sports. I appreciate you. I appreciate everything you guys do. We'll be back tomorrow. My name is Brandon Walker. You've been watching More Cowbell, the Mississippi State podcast presented by SEC Country.